Is that the rate of change will always have should have per in it, right? Per, what, right? So what is it? What's my rate of change? Rate, right, is 21 million per year. That's my M. What's my initial amount? In 1998, initially, there was 84 million users. That's my B. So 21 goes here, 84 goes there. Y equals mx plus b. All right, because when x is 0, I start with, right, and then when we start, my initial amount is 84. That's my b. All right, so then let's figure out when x is 10. When x is 10, y should equal 21 times x. What's my x? 10. Plus b. What's my b? 84. What do you guys get for that? 294. So let's fill in those spots when x is 10. So graph those points. 294, it's almost 300. 1 should be 105. 2 should be 126. And then draw your line. And then from the line, you should be able to approximate about where it's, should be right up here. And then they ask us to find and interpret f of 14. So f of 14, so again, I just put f, giant parentheses, what's my function? 21x, giant parentheses, plus 84. That's my function, right? Oops. F of x equals 21x plus 84. So what am I going to put in for x? What's x in this case? Find and interpret f of 14. So x is 14. I'm going to put 14 in everywhere that x is. It said find and interpret f of 14. So I was putting 14 in for x. So everybody find that. F of 14 equals, and then figure out what this equals. Literally get out your calculator. So I'm going to do, hold a minute here, 21 times 14, enter, and then I'm going to add my initial amount, 84. I get 378. Okay, so now you guys have got examples 2 and 3 to do. So I'm going to give you guys some time to work on those ones. And you know what, let's take a break actually. Let me take a second and talk to you guys about slope. So you know it's rise over run, but sometimes you don't know how to find that you can define it from your graph by counting, right? The rise and the run. So you have a graph like this. You know these points here. So you can figure out what your rise is and figure out what your run is. Right? This is the rise. That's the run. That's the easiest. There's another way though, if you have the rise is your change in your y. So it's also equal, other option 2 is m equals, you take one of your y points, and call it, so let's call this, here's a point, we'll call it x2, comma y2, meaning it's the first point, second point, and this one we'll call it the first x, comma the first y. Right, so this is point number 1, so it's x sub 1, comma y sub 1. This is the second point, x sub 2, comma y sub 2. So the alternative way of finding your slope is by finding the change in your y's. So y2, the height, you know, this height minus that height, minus y1, over your change in your x's. x2 minus x1. So this is, this is how I like to do it. Say I've got 2 points. I've got 3, comma 6, and I have, I don't know, 2, comma 4. These are my 2 points, right there next to each other, and then it's the y's. So I'm going to do this one minus that one. Whatever one I start with, I have to do the second one, I have to start from the same spot. So if I'm going to do m equals 6 minus 4, that's on top. The bottom has to be 3 minus 2. I can't swap them. I've got to go, if I start from this point, for the first y, for the y's, I have to start with this point with the x's and do 3 minus 2. I can't do 2 minus 3. It's got to be this one minus that one. If I do this one minus that one, I have to do this one minus that one. I could also do 4 minus 6 over 2 minus 3. That's all right too, as long as whatever point you start with, you start for that same point for x and for y when you do this. Is everybody okay with that part? Do you see how we found this slope? So the slope might be negative. It could be negative if you know, if one is negative and one's positive. It could be negative. Do you want me to do an example of that or not? You guys all right with that part? I can do an example. Here's an example. 2, comma 1 and say 5, comma 0. So my y's, I could do this way, then I have to do that way. So that would be m equals 1 minus 0 over 2 minus 5. 1 over negative 3, or you can just think of it as negative 1/3. So you can just find it from 2 points. If you have 2 points, you can just find it from 2 points. Let's go over the first problem. Problem number 2.
Oh, M. Oh. Oh, I thought M was the rate of change.
Okay, so here, first of all, the first question is this data linear? Does it form a line? Totally. So yeah, it's linear. Next, we're going to make a table. So I'm going to do, what was this? It was years after 1997, is that it?
Yep.
And then this is, what's the other thing that changes? So the 2 things that change are the year and what?
Fatal accidents.
Yeah. Number of fatal accidents. All right, so when x is 0, y is 40. And the next one, x is 0, y is, oh, sorry, x is, it goes to 3. What's the next one? It jumps to 3. My y is 60. And x is 6. My y is 80, and when x is 9, my y is 100. Okay, so we got those. And then we're going to write a linear function which models the data. So I'm going to draw my little, I need to figure out the rise and the run along here. So my rise is, you guys said the rise was 20, and my run from here to here was 3. So then, remembering that y equals mx plus b, we have m equals rise over run. So m equals 20 over 3. All right, I can take that. I can throw it into my function here. But I also need to find my b, my initial amount. So when x is 0, y is my initial, that's my initial amount. When x is 0, that's initially, right? When x is 0, that means when time is 0. So initially, my y is 40. So y is 40 when x equals 0. That means my b is 40. That's what we like. That's why it's really useful to make this 0. Because then we can say, oh, when x is 0, b is whatever y is then. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, because the y-intercept is when x is 0. Yeah, perfect. So it's my y-intercept is my initial amount. So that's another way of looking at it. It's your y-intercept, because your y-intercept is when x is 0. That's your y-intercept. So here, we have our two pieces. We can take e is 40, pop that into this part there, and then we'll end up with y equals m 20 over 3 x plus b. Good. All right, so then the question is, find or interpret. So, oh, as a quick comment, right? So a function is always going to be y equals something with x in it. All our functions in here are always going to be y equals something with x in it. My two things that vary are going to be x and y. So they have to stay here as variables. You have to have an x and a y in there because those are the two things that change. If my slope will stay put, and my initial amount stays put for that problem. Those are my constants, we say. Okay, so I need to find f of 7. So let's take a look at that. F of 7 is equal to 20 over 3 times 7 plus 40. And Fox, what'd you get?
I got 86.
86 is the third. Then they do it in decimal, you only got an 86.66. Yeah, 7 or 666. Good? Okay. Perfect. And those are, oh, and interpret it. Ooh. Okay, so this is a catch. This is one that people always screw up on the exam. All right, so here, we know what it is. Here's the interpretation. So put a little star, we're going to interpret it. Nobody did this, none of you guys did this, so pay attention. This is how you interpret it. You would say, this is interpretation. When f is 7, that means what year is that? 1997? Okay, so f of 7 is 1997 plus 7. So that's, so you'd say in 2004, there were How many? 86.7, what? Million? Is it million?
Yeah.
Okay. Million fatal accidents. Is that right? That seems like a lot.
Approximately 107 million automobile drivers in the year. Cell phones.
And that's how many fatalities? That's a lot, yeah. Fatalities, okay, so we should say about, right, because you're not gonna have 86.7 fatalities. What, 2/3 of a person died? That doesn't make sense. So about 86.7 cell phone fatal car accidents.
What do you do? Steve?
What was that?
I'm thinking like, would it be cell phone induced fatal accidents?
Well, that's what they're saying. They're
Or does it
saying
induced?
they were
Like
cell phone related automobile accidents. So this is cell phone related automobile accident fatalities in North Carolina. So you can just say, if you said in 2007 there were about 86.7 fatalities, I'd be okay with that. But just realize that this means related to cell phones and car accidents in North Carolina. Okay. Bare minimum you need to tell me is, in 2004, there were about 86.7 fatalities. That's the bare minimum I need on that. Okay, so when we say interpret, when we say find, find means find it. Interpret it means give me in words what that means, how it relates to real life. Will I be able to do that on the exam? Because a lot of times people get to the part and they say interpret, and you guys just leave it blank because you have no idea what that means. So I'm telling you, when I say interpret, that's what that means. Star it, make a note, dog ear that page, make sure you totally get that. Yeah, David?
I didn't have enough room to write it, so can I take a picture?
Yes.
Okay.
Great. So then, we're going to look down here, sample 3. So here's another way of doing it. What you guys may have noticed is my rise and run are kind of here. I can say, oh, here I rose 20, my run was 3. Do you guys see it there? You can do the same thing if you have a table already. You could say, oh, so I would change these years. I'd make this X and make this 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I'd leave this as my Y. So then I'd say, oh, my rise is this much, my run is that much. So everyone kind of see, so you can grab it straight from here, your rise and your run. The rises are your Y's, the runs is your X's, and figure out how much do I change from one to the next. Okay, so I'm going to let you guys do that one. So figure out if this is linear. In other words, does it go up the same amount each time or not? Figure out if it's linear, make a scatter plot. And then write your linear function. In other words, find your rise or your run, find your slope, find your initial amount when X is 0, and again, I would strongly recommend that you make X the years after 2000. So that becomes the top row in pink, that's your X. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. And your Y's would be, I can move that over. Your Y's would be, so this is your X, this is your Y. So you kind of wouldn't really use that,
Why do you think it looks to be?
right?
Whatever you can, you're gonna put all the numbers to that formula.
So then find your y equals mx plus b,
So you-
figure your m and your b are. Once you find,
Y intercept.
if you find your m and your b, you're golden, you have everything you need, you can find your function.